Skip, I believe it will. I believe it's just a matter of time now because now they're starting to hit Daniel Snyder where it would potentially hurt. And that's in his back pocket. Now, he can be stubborn and bullheaded and try to and dismiss. Who needs an extra $150 million in advertising? But, Skip, that's nothing to sneeze at. That gets people's undivided attention. And what Nike took down their merchandise, took it down off their website. As reported that 87 investment firms and shareholders worth a collective $620 billion, Nike, FedEx, and PepsiCo, said, look, they were asked that y'all need to terminate this because this is the only thing that's going to get his attention. And, Skip, I believe Daniel Snyder it will not be a better time than what's right now. He can do it now with no problem because the people that want him to hold on to that name, they was like, you know what? Given the climate and where we are right now, we understand. That's so much pressure.
True.
Now, I get it. There were polls in the 90s that said the Native Americans weren't offended by this, but there was a poll that...
Polls in the 2000s.
But here's one that just was conducted in February. 57% who strongly identify with being Native American and 67% who frequently engage in tribal cultural practices are deeply insulted by a caricature of the Native American culture.
Which could run deeper than just that nickname.
Exactly. Skip, you know what the problem is? You know why people don't want to give that nickname up? People that create something have a hard time being told not to use it. That's why people want to use the N-word, because they created it. Skip, do you think Native Americans ever called themselves Redskins? No. It's the people that invented the name that's holding on to it. They're not going around, hey, you this, you that, because they want to hold on to it. Daniel Snyder, they made it just like Preston Marshall. They said, okay, you want to move, you not moving until you put blacks on that football team. Guess what he did, Skip? He put Bobby Mitchell on the foot. I think Bobby passed away. Put him on the team. And all of a sudden, they started getting black players. Now, they've already told him you're not getting a new stadium until you change the name.
Remember, they drafted Ernie Davis. That was the first one where George Preston Marshall said, okay, I give in. I give up. It's 1962. He's the last one, last holdout for integration. Okay, I'll draft him, Ernie Davis. And he said, no, I will not play for you. Okay.
And so, Skip, I just think the thing is with this, Skip, I mean, you think about Nike. Nike is the official outfit of the NFL. You're looking at these big corporations, Skip. That's potentially hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, if they pull, they're not going to be the only ones that pull out of this. And so Daniel Snyder's really not going to, I don't think he's going to have much of a choice. And I don't think the climate is any better than it's ever been for him to make that change. Skip, forget the climate. It's the right thing to do. Whatever happened to doing the right thing? Forget the climate. Forget the temperature of where we are in society at this current time. What about doing the right thing? Skip, I try to make it a habit that since I've been on the air with you, I don't refer to that last name. I say Washington. Skip, I don't need but one person to tell me something is offensive. I don't need 50,000. I don't need the whole popular demographic to say that's offensive. If one person says, you know what, Skip, I got a great relationship with a guy at CBS. He was on camera 3, Fred Shimizu. I used to call him Ichiro because he was Japanese. His sisters passed, and Ichiro in Japanese means firstborn. Well, his sister was the firstborn, and he came to me. He said, Shannon. He said, can you do me a favor? I said, what's that? Ichiro? He said, can you not refer to me as Ichiro anymore? I said, sure. He said, my sister passed, and she was the firstborn. No problem. Freddie. From that point on, Skip, all he needed to do was tell me. No, man, I've been calling you that all along, man. Why now? Still got a great relationship. Skip, they told you they don't like it. I don't care I don't care about 90. I don't care if it's 95% says it's okay. That 5% says no, leave it alone.
Okay. Everything you just said, music to my ears. I have been campaigning for years for this nickname to go away. I will be honest with you, be completely transparent. I tried for a while in 2014 not to use it. It gets, during the football season, virtually impossible when you're on a sports debate show not to use that nickname because it's just the name of the team. When you say Washington, it doesn't even have the right ring. Okay, so forgive me for that. But I have campaigned, as have many others in the media, to get rid of this nickname for, I don't know how many years. For me, 10, 15 years. It was just wrong from the start. I think Dan Snyder knew in his heart of hearts it was wrong, but he grew up a Redskin fan. His father taking him to games at old RFK Stadium. And the sentimentality of the deep love that he has for the team blinded him to how that nickname does offend some Native Americans, not all.
Right.
And yet we went through this big flurry of attention in 2014 because there was a prospect. They were going to lose their trademark. You want to talk about getting hit in the pocketbook if they did not change the name. And I don't know how Dan Snyder pulled this off, but he issued a statement at that point, I will never, and he put it in all caps, change this name.
Right.
And apparently, Dan Snyder has friends in high places in our nation's capital.
You think?
High places.
Yes.
Because somehow that case against his trademark somehow went away in the bowels of of our judicial system.
Yes.
I don't understand it, but it went away. During that time, he went on a campaign to convince people that there was nothing wrong with that nickname. And he did so by basically doing a national tour of different reservations, visiting with different tribal chiefs. He also gave $4 million to Native American causes.
Right.
And he had 5 of his ex-players led by Chris Cooley. We had him on the other show at ESPN. And they were just campaigning to try to enlighten people that most, like a vast majority of Native Americans were not offended by that nickname. And there was the most talked about poll of all came out in 2016 via the Washington Post, a highly credible at that point website and newspaper.
Right.
And it surveyed 504 Native Americans out of the 5 million odd Native Americans we have in our country now. A pretty good sample size. Again, I'm never quite sure about this, but 504, 9 out of 10 said we are not offended by the nickname. The NFL then conducted its own poll soon after that and found that it was actually older respondents to the poll who were not offended, but the NFL found that those surveyed between the ages of 18 and 29 were strongly, by 71%, opposed. Right. So that's what we've seen in the recent protests. The younger people, like I kept telling you, the younger white people are saying, no more of this.
Right.
We've seen enough of this. We're with our black brothers and sisters.
Right.
What do you need from us now?
Right.
Okay, so it's a surge of youthful thinking. It's enlightened thinking.
And you mentioned this, Skip. It may be a point in time where the older generation says, you know what, it's been there so long, ain't nothing we can do. Okay. And the younger generation says, hell no, there is something we can do.
I think the older generations are so beaten down.
Yes.
Because they were so oppressed that they finally just said, we give up.
Skip, I can see if he named it after one of the tribes, the Cherokee or the Choctaw or the Chickasaw or Washawnee. That's not a tribe. That's a derogatory term. What part don't you get about that?
Okay, so I've gone back and forth for years about just how derogatory the term is. But all I know for sure is that there are some Native American leaders who find it extremely derogatory.
Yes.
It's difficult for me, and this is just my 2 cents sitting in this chair right here. It's difficult for me to equate that nickname with the N-word, which I've told you countless times, it's the most evil word in our language. Is it a racial slur, that nickname that we're not speaking right now? To some it is. To others, it's just a derogatory term. It's just sort of a derisive term. But it's difficult for me to equate the suffering that your people went through, African Americans in this country, starting in 1619, born of slavery, and the sufferings of the Native Americans in this country. They are both American tragedies. They don't equate. I can't compare and contrast them because they're so different. But I've told you before, I grew up in what used to be called Indian Territory, the state of Oklahoma. It means red man, Oklahoma. 5 civilized tribes were relocated from southeastern United States, from Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. They were forced in relocation to march all the way to Oklahoma, to Indian Territory, to relocate onto reservations, which then got further taken away from them by the Oklahoma land run when white settlers said, well, you got enough land, we're going to take some more of your land. Okay, and basically, just for our younger viewers who don't get this, They were here first. This was their land.
Yeah.
When Columbus discovered America, it was populated by Native Americans. And what did we do? As in my forefathers?
I know we borrowed. I know we paid them a good price for it. We gave them what, I mean, did we pay for it? I mean, didn't they pay for it? I know Columbus, because I know that's not, white men would never riot and kill somebody. No, Skip.
So the white men basically declared war on the Native Americans, declared war, and said, if you won't give up your land, we will take it from you. And there was bloodshed. And by the way, that forced march of the Trail, it became known as the Trail of Tears. There were about 60,000 who were moved. Nearly 10,000 died on the march of disease and hunger. And it was just...
Well, a lot of disease came when they came over here, brought their butt over here.
Thank you.
There was no disease over here. They was just fine, just harmony.
Okay, now let's go to the origin of this nickname. I'm going to say it, Redskins. Where did it pop up? How did it jump into existence? Well, it happened back in 1932 when George Preston Marshall tried to put a football team in Boston, Massachusetts, when football was not popular. It was a baseball town.
Correct.
There was no basketball. There was little to no football yet. And so at first, they were the Boston Braves because they shared a stadium with a Boston National League baseball team, also referred to as the Braves, okay? And then when he had to move to Fenway Park, or I guess he probably wanted to move to Fenway Park to share space with the Red Sox, he thought, well, let's change the nickname Braves to Redskins, okay? So it's kind of a clever Red Sox, Redskins. But he knew it was going to be a problem, so how did he try to sell it to the public? He went out and found a man who was said to be part Sioux Indian at that point, Native American, obviously, but that he was part Sioux. His name was Henry Dietz, Lone Star Dietz, and made him the head coach of the Redskins just to try to sell it. So clearly, George Preston Marshall knew it was a problem. When I was a little kid growing up watching what were called cowboy and Indian movies, what happened when they were going after the Indians? It was those lousy Redskins. It was at the very least, it was a derogatory term, right? And I've always said it on TV many times, can you imagine an early NFL owner saying, you know what? I want to pay tribute to the slaves who were the backbone of our economy for so many years in this country. I'm going to call my new NFL team the Blackskins. How would that have gone over, and how long would that have gone over?
Faces.
Yeah, or okay, there, okay? Do that.
No.
Okay, no. But Redskins somehow work because the Redskins, the Native Americans are so oppressed that they got beaten down into reservation existences where they didn't have the leadership to fight back. Your community has had strong leadership over the years, as oppressed as you have been. It is powerful, potent, starting with Dr. King, and I can do Malcolm X, and I can go to Jesse Jackson, and I can go to Al Sharpton, and I can go to Shannon Sharpton. I can go all the way up. Strong, powerful voices. And this again, the Native Americans are split into tribes. So that's hard to unify and unite, right? And so they haven't had that one powerful voice to defend them until now. They have fallen into a time in which, thanks to your community, we have had some racial enlightenment, some new racial sensitivity, I believe. Is it the battle up? No, it's not over. But I believe we have reached as enlightened a point in our growth in this country as we ever have.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.